Have you ever asked yourself if it is possible to give Barbie with holes in her head new hair? Or have you ever asked yourself if it is possible to repaint a Barbie with a part of a makeup gone while leaving the left part under your repaint? By the way, if you are missing any topic I have not covered in my other videos, let me know in the comments below. As you can imagine, it is possible, and here you see the results.
Hi, I'm Busy Bee from Germany.
I started collecting almost 25 years ago, and I'm a Barbie dog for almost 10 years. This channel is more than just your one-stop Barbie repair workshop. This stall is definitively a job for the Barbie Repair Cafe. I wanna help all of you out there with the same problem. Don't throw your dolls away. Don't give them up. Don't produce waste when you don't have to, by imagining the way to restore them. My video will serve those of you who probably don't have the experience how to do it. My video will help those of you who don't have the courage. Just go, let me guide you. There's always a way to save your fashion dolls. I have tons of video sure to cover any problem from the first 40 years of Barbie, and that's how it all started. The Barbie you see here is a Spanish Barbie. I really like Spanish Barbie dolls, but they are really hard to find and even harder to find in really good condition. Somehow she reminded me a little bit of the He-Man action figures of the 1980s. She's called Trenzado Mágico Barbie, and she is the Spanish Twirly Curls version from the early 80s, produced under license by Congost in Spain. The missing production capacity in the 80s made Mattel put out licenses for different companies to produce Barbies under different licenses. You can find them all around the world. I found this doll by the end of 2019, and I promised you for a long time to do this reroute project, but I have not done it until now. I had another Trenzado Mágico Barbie before I found this one, but my other one has problems with her makeup. So I wanted to find at least one with a good makeup and reroute her if possible. So I really had to search for a long time to find a Trenzado Mágico in a condition I was able to work with. So the hair of this one was really bad, a common problem among Spanish Barbie dolls, but her makeup is still perfect, untouched, and that's really hard to find among the Spanish Barbie dolls. There are a lot of Spanish Barbie dolls that are hard to find, and this one belongs to the hard to find ones. The background why I seldom do makeovers is the time. Makeovers are always very time consuming, and I neglected the project a little bit because I saw that she had holes in her head, which scared me, but I wanted to prove that Gorilla Glue is not necessary. Again, think of what's possible, think of how you can save her. To be honest, I was not sure if I could manage it to repair her while preventing that the holes become bigger. I wasn't sure because of the material. I don't know if it was cheap material or not. A very thin kind of rubber. Maybe too much hair has caused the damage, or too much pressure. So I just used water and gentle pushes with my needle through the head to prevent any further damage. I did this reroute with the idea in mind to restore it, not breaking the head, but just restore it. but practice and theory are two different things. You may ask yourself, Busy Bee, why do you want to restore her? I wanted to restore her because of her perfect makeup. Makeup is a problem with Spanish Barbie dolls. Maybe the ceiling is missing. You will see this later in this video. Let me give you some details about the material. I used saran hair here because the original hair was also saran hair for this Spanish Barbie doll. I chose a platinum blonde because she had a kind of platinum blonde hair. I chose a color very close to what I found. I don't know if it is 100% the color she had or not, but it is very close to the original. In my opinion, saran hair is not too artificial looking, rather normal in my opinion. So I used for her 1.25 to 1.5 hangs of normal length. My rerouting needle, the shortest one of the 3 doll needles I bought approximately 10 years ago. So mine has already a curve from work. I almost used it for 10 years, so quite a bit used. I prepare lots of streaks when I do a reroute, then I take each one separately and push it in the head. If you want to see what happens inside, watch my what happens inside the head when you do a reroute video. I'm going to link it in a card above so that you can see it. It's really hard to film it because I use the lock and loop method. It's the most original method in my opinion, very close to what they did with the sewing machines for dolls. I covered the topic in my never-ending discussion video where I covered the topic if they used mohair or not. Now you can see the sewing machine for doll hair if you are interested in one, and it's shown how this thing works. So when you get your hanks of saran hair, you have to separate the single streaks. The hair is sometimes pre-cut, but not in all the cases. What I can tell you about the thickness of the streaks is that I just do this by experience. Not too thick and not too thin. It's just what I have learned in the last 10 years. And when you are in doubt to use a streak, then rather a thicker streak than a thin one, because it's in general no problem to put a thicker streak, but beware when you don't get the streak through the head, then it's too thick and you need too much power. Then I recommend you to separate the one streak into 2 streaks, and then there should be no problem anymore. You know, when the streaks are too thick, you can destroy the head. I can recommend you just try it and learn by practice. You don't need any perfection. Perfection comes with experience later. So you don't have seen me doing reroutes very often. I prefer to start from the middle. And this part, the middle part, was her crest hair. And so I started there. In my opinion, it's much easier than to start from the outside and then go inside, because you have to separate the crest part in any way to make a nice crest later. So that's why I started in this video with the crest part of the hair. When you have a round rerouting part, I prefer to go round in the circles. But since I did not have my circles here everywhere, I started with a crest part and then I used the circles to continue my work until I finished it. My last reroute was a vintage Barbie, and these dolls only have the outer circles routed because I think it was kind of a cost-saving plan. They don't have hair in the middle of their heads, so that's why I did not show you that. I think in general I needed 6 hours just for rerouting. That's what you see here, just cut a little bit down. The time consuming part of it is always the preparation. So I did here 1 hour each day and I needed at least 1 week for the hair alone. This head had not the most amount of hair I ever rerouted. It's still okay from the amount of hair. 90 stalls have even more hair and it lasts longer to push all the hair into the head with your needle. I was asked to do reroutes on a commercial basis, but when I told them how much time I would need, they did not want me to do it because it was too expensive for them. I would just want to give you a ratio here that you can imagine how much time you really need. Reroutes are really a lot of work and only crazy people do it because they love the dolls and they want to preserve them. So it's really good when you need to think things through. It's a very meditative work, but it's also a kind of boring because you always have to do the same steps again and again and again. I needed the most time for the top part of the head because she had the most hair there, very big amount of hair. When I do the reroute, I crisscross the hair so that you get a stable pattern in the head through the rerouting, different from the method that you use when you use the rerouting tool and glue. My hair can't fall out and that's my preferred method here. I worked here in an extra careful way. I never had any reroute or the part of the head torn apart. And this was the one challenge I had in this video because I wanted to prove that it's possible. It's not hard when you just be careful and you don't use too much pressure. Think of her head as an egg. The shell is not very thick, but when you keep this in mind, the result will be great. Straightening the hair after a reroute is not the easiest task. It's always a operation, and when we have put so much work into our head and rerouted it completely, we also have to make a nice crest. Barbie crests are a little bit time consuming. Please forgive me here for showing you so much of it, but in reality I think it needed more than 30 minutes because you have to hold the head in your hand, you have to hold the hair, you have to separate the streaks at the same time, and then you have to care that the hair goes in the direction you want it, and you have to secure it somehow that it can't disappear from the place you want it to have, and that's a lot coordination work. I can give you the hint to have faith in you and your abilities when you do this. Just go for it, don't think too much, just let it go. I'm not speeding up this part so much because I want you that you can follow how I exactly do this and you can use this as an instruction. So I hope you forgive me for not making this too fast so that you can see what's happening exactly. Just enjoy this process and I'll be back in a sec. I will show you how to cut her hair later in another video. She's still having her braids and this lasts sometimes several weeks until I remove her braids and the hair is smoothly attached to the head. That's what you also saw in the beginning of this video. She still has her braids now. When you're done with the crest part and you got it all under control, the next step is to use the hot water method to flatten the hair closely to the head. Sometimes you need more than one bowl with hot water. You will need sometimes 3 or 4 times to do this. And if the hair is resistant to any position you want to have it, then go and make her braids. Like already mentioned before, Spanish Barbies seem to have a problem with cotton makeup. I have seen this among many Spanish Barbie dolls. I have not bought them all, but I have seen this problem online many times. And I think it's a problem that these dolls have a not sealed makeup somehow. Again, in this part of the project, I want to encourage you just to try it. You needn't be perfect to do this. As a preparation part, I used a little bit of Mr. Super Glue. Mr. Super Glue is a sealer that prevents the makeup to disappear completely when I will do the repaint over the existing makeup. I wanted to restore as close as possible to the original, but it's really hard when you don't have the original colors. It's like a little puzzle and you have to try and see what works and what works not for you, how close you can really come to the original, depends on the colors you have at hand. Sure, I could have ordered more colors, but I wanted to see how far I could get with the material I have at home. You can always invest in new colors, that's not the problem. At first, in this restoration part, I was unsure to use acrylic or watercolor pencils. The pencils you see here in the back are from Faber-Castell. I don't have the Albrecht Dürer pencils, but also watercolor pencils. It's the same technique. I got my box 20 years ago. The Dürer series has more colors than the one I use here, but I got this as a box as a Christmas present 2 decades ago, and I did not plan to work as a repainter in the future. I got this doll several years ago and she was a lot of years in my showcase. But my idea was to restore her makeup and I wanted to start with the white of the eyes because most of it was gone and it's the easiest part when you do a restoration because white is just white and you can't do any mistakes. So for this project I got myself a wet palette, the thing you see where I take the color from. That's my new wet palette. I was forced during this repaint part with the summer heat and the acrylic color dried so fast I was not able to paint it really fast enough on the face of my doll. And I had to solve the problem. So I ordered myself this little wet palette that you see here. And I must really say it's so helpful when you do repaints in summer. It keeps your colors wet and it's really a joy to work on this little thing. You possibly know the problem that when you do a paint stroke, that when you are not fast enough, you see the line of your brush in the color. And that's what makes this little thing so attractive because you don't have this problem anymore. Maybe some words to the working procedure of this wet palette. You have a sponge under the piece of paper that you see me using the paint from, and you water the sponge so that it stays wet for several days, and you can put the paint on, and this also stays wet for several days when you use the cap to close it, which you don't see here in my video, but it has a cap to close it, and then you can use the paint for several days and you don't have the problem with drying acrylic colors. So it's really helpful to have a wet palette when you do repaints. I can really recommend this to anyone. Concerning the brushes, I have the advice for you to use a brush of your choice. I am using my little Da Vinci brushes from 0 to -20 depending on what to paint. In any way, I can give you the advice to use good quality brushes and good quality acrylic paint. When in doubt that you have too much paint on your brush, you can use the back of your hand for a test to get rid of the excess paint. But I admit I have not seen it among the fashion doll repainters yet. Maybe this will change in the future. Let's see. When you have doubts that your color is too thick, then put a little bit of water in it, and it's no problem because you mix the color and the water and then you have a very thin color on your wet palette. But it's no problem when it's too thin because you just let the color rest on the palette and a little bit of the water disappears overnight. So when you have a too thin layer of color water mixture, the next day it should be okay again. So no big deal. You just need the information, right? And now you have it, and now you can go to work. So, as I already mentioned, I started here with the white of the eyes. I put several layers of white on the eye because my paint was very thin in the beginning and I did not want any traces, so I had to do several layers. And I had here a special problem because you have the rest of the makeup under your brush and paint, and this may cause some not smooth looking areas. You know, the color itself is very smooth when you would apply it without any leftovers of the makeup, but in this case I had some rests and I had to deal with them. So this may not look perfect, but it's the best what you can do with the leftovers of the makeup under it. After doing the white of the eyes, I started with the eyeshadow. I chose a light blue. I hope it is close enough to the original as it could be, but the original had somehow a little greenish tone in it, which was very hard to meet with my colors, so I chose the light blue. I think it's a very good choice. Let me know in the comments what you think about. So I also had to do several layers of light blue here to get a decent eyeshadow. I think I needed at least 2 days for the eyeshadow because the amount of time I had every day for repainting this was limited. What I learned during this video is that masking it all is possible if you want only certain areas to get a seal. I have taken a picture of her while I did the masking. Let me know in the comments below if you want to see a picture of her looking like a mummy. Another thing I learned in this video is that using a thinner medium is no good idea because it sticks on your brush and it's really hard to get off, so I can not recommend this to you. I did the rest of my repaint here with just acrylic paint and water. Maybe I'm going to experiment with water, medium and acrylic paint in the future, but not here. The lips also had a little bit of leftover makeup under the ceiling, so I wanted to go as close as I could to the original, but I had not a very orangey acrylic color to use, and this made me go to a nude color at the end because I had several of these nude colors and I thought, hey, if I would ever find the right orange, then I would repaint the lips again, but for now this skin tone flesh-like nude should be right. The repaint of the lips themselves was not that complicated because I have at least my model to look at when doing the lips, and since she had most of her original makeup on her mouth, it was no problem where to paint and where not. Tapped it, but I repainted the lips and then used the sealer, and then I went on with the white of the lips so that I had not the problem to cover maybe a part of the lip with white, which I didn't want to be white. So that's how I did the white part, and then I sealed it again. Eyebrows are a little bit complicated to paint. I don't really like to paint eyebrows, but you know, I don't have to have eyebrows, and I started just very gentle with some pattern, and then I filled the pattern with a little bit of paint. I decided to use a watercolor pencil because I did not have the right brown for the original eyebrow color, so I decided to use a watercolor pencil here and not go with the acrylic colors. But in the end it was no bad decision, I think. The eyebrows are not completely equally, but that's very, very, very hard to do when you have not done it very often. When you ask me, the hardest point when you do eyebrows is the starting point, because you always have something that's missing when you have to do eyebrows, and it's even harder when you don't have a starting point and you don't have an end point. So when they are completely gone, it's a special challenge to do the eyebrows. But there are some little tricks you can use for doing eyebrows, which maybe I'm going to cover in one of my next videos, if you want me to. You know, the good side when you use paint is that when you have done it the wrong way, you can always correct it with a little bit of color. It's not for eternity, it's just a point where you can start again from. So don't worry if you don't get it right at the first time, try it again and maybe again, and when you have done it at least 2 or 3 times, then it will be in the way you want it to be. So don't worry when you have to do it several times. And again, I want to encourage you to have faith in you and your abilities. Don't give up. If it is not right the first time, do it again. And you don't even have to show it if you don't want to. I hope that my video will serve those of you who probably don't have the experience how to do it. My video will serve those of you who don't have the courage. Just let it go. Let me guide you. There's always a way to save your fashion doll. I know repaints are really something that depends on the taste of oneself. It's not that you can say for everyone, man, this doll is looking perfectly, or man, this doll is looking awfully to me. It's very hard to generalize these things. It's always depending on your own taste. My summary of what I have tried and learned in this video. It is possible to save a Barbie doll with holes in her head. You don't need Gorilla Glue, and yeah, she can get her hair back when you have the courage to do it. I will cut the hair up to one length in the future, but this video became much longer than I planned. I will be careful with medium in the future. I used it once here in this video, but I will give you the advice to avoid it when you are a beginner, because it stucks on your brush like honey and it's really hard to remove it again. You can have a very unpleasant time to remove it again, and that's why I would warn you here a little bit. Don't use it if you don't have to at first. And in the repaint section I learned, yes, it is possible to paint with the rest of the makeup of a Barbie doll a new makeup, but I think if I ever should find such a doll again, I would remove the rest completely. One of her eyes was not perfectly painted from the factory, and this gave her a weird look I tried to correct. And every mistake you make can be corrected with a little bit of paint. Just do it, go for it, and overcome your fear. Let me know in the comments if you have ever seen a Barbie with a part of the makeup gone, like the one I repainted here. I think the makeup was airbrushed on Barbie after 1959. I'm pretty sure the makeup on the left one was not hand painted. I'm not sure about this because there are no reliable sources. Airbrushing is of course a lot faster than painting by hand. What could be an indication for the Spanish dolls is that the glaze medium finish or whatever it is called is missing here. The makeup on the left is very matte, as you can see. Question of the day is, do you know heman, and what do you think of this result here? So I hope you like my little video here. You share, like and subscribe to my channel. You recommend me to your collector friends. I'm also open for new video ideas. If you have any topic that I have not covered yet on my channel, let me know in the comments below. I will answer to you.